Key 360 is the engine which drives these benefits. So the system, through the system, the stakeholders all work on a single database. In other words, it's one version of the truth. The app enables users on site to immediately capture their progress as they move along. The information is available in Key 360 immediately, and it automatically flows through to the dashboards where management who are not on site can see the progress as the job carries on. So what we have is real-time visual reporting that's available anywhere in the world, whether the site be in the middle of Africa and the owners or the management sits in Europe or South America or whatever be the case. Risks are highlighted immediately for the personnel and they can see their own performance. So when they see on the app that the KPIs tell them things are not going well, they can immediately self-correct their actions, and it does not need a delay, interaction or interference from management to tell the people on site what they need to do differently. The real-time nature of the app eliminates the delay between strategy reviews and also the inordinate amount of time that usually goes into building report for people looking at the strategy on the job. So therefore, the concept of agile strategy is enabled by the app, which we haven't seen in other solutions to date. Some of the ailings of local project management and mining we see is simply poor execution of capital projects. We see oftentimes huge overruns both in budget as well as time on capital projects. At the moment in South Africa, there's also not a lot of investment in capital projects. We see a lot of big organizations having postponed large capital projects or just shelved them completely. One of the other issues is the lack of availability of highly skilled personnel. This is happening in South Africa. We see that even in big engineering consulting firms that used to be extremely capable, especially on the engineering side, but some of those skills seem to have left, and that becomes an issue on the success of projects. For these challenges, Key 360 helps because all the stakeholders work on one aspect or one version of the truth at the same time. Everybody works on the same database. Everyone can have access to the project, from EPCMs to smaller subcontractors to project owners to the investors in the project. The stakeholders can choose the level of transparency with which they want to work together. For example, project owners with their subcontractors, which kind of data they want to give them access to. We believe that the lack of trust between project owners and EPCMs or subcontractors lead to very poor communication on the projects, which then causes all the symptoms of delays, overruns, rework, and ultimately claims. We've recently worked with big projects where the claims run into hundreds of millions of rands, which could have been avoided if there was a high level of transparency and trust between the stakeholders, and also then joint problem solving rather than throwing the ball across the court and pointing fingers at the other party. We really believe this can be avoided. The reason why it's not happening as it can be at the moment is because there's a lack of technology that enables that collaboration and cooperation between the stakeholders. It makes it actually very difficult to share and to offer that kind of transparency. Different stakeholders, for example, project owners and EPCMs or contractors, have different perspectives on what's actually happening on the project, and so a mismatch happens between the two, which impacts the projects, and as I said earlier, eventually can lead to mega claims, sometimes a good chunk of the actual value of the project itself. If we assume that all the stakeholders on the project want successful projects, and I think that's a fair assumption, we believe that the successful projects of the future will be based on intentional and comprehensive information sharing and transparency and cooperation between the stakeholders on the project. Relationships must move from adversarial to cooperative. Eventually, project problems will be jointly solved, But this is not possible without a technology such as Key 360. These challenges are often symptoms of deeper systemic issues in the industry. At the moment in South Africa, for example, there seems to be fewer projects available, which means that the engineers, the designers, the EPCMs, subcontractors have to compete for less work in the marketplace. What that means is that they often have to drop their prices, and we see that on bids where well-known organizations may bid at cost or even below in order to cover their overheads and essentially stay in business until the cycle turns and things go better. We believe that is not a sustainable situation for the industry because you would then see skills eroding, people going elsewhere to work on exciting projects. We see consolidation in the mining industry for contractors, and jobs get shed and get lost. Also, several project owners follow punitive procurement and contracting practices, which puts the contractors at risk. They have to sometimes contract in those ways and follow those demands and price according to those things, but for the contractors as well, it's not a sustainable situation. So therefore, we believe that project owners need to take a sustainable route in terms of the projects that they build, and we believe the successful contractors in future and the owners will do their projects based on a level of trust enabled by technology that helps everyone to see a picture of the truth. Investor owners and contractors need to follow a more sustainable approach to risk management, project pricing, and execution. Project owners have very little control over the macro trends, for example, less projects, commodity prices, lower commodity demand. They can, however, address the risk that these macro trends bring about by working in an intelligent way. Key 360 provides transparency to all the stakeholders, and this makes it possible to jointly solve problems on a project. Asset owners can attract investors by demonstrating a measurable reduction in risk and an associated increase in ROI for investors.